Welcome everyone to the part 2 of how to ace your interviews in biblical and practical ways. So last week, we already covered what ACE stands for. How do we ace our interview? And my sharing is based on my 33 years of career in a Fortune 500 company and had hired and interviewed many candidates. In addition, I also interview college applicants for Cornell and Princeton, my universities, and done that for 22 years. So I've interviewed over 100 students over the years. And I also do a lot of coaching one-on-one with my students and mentees, and I help them sometimes with mock interview. So I really learn a lot from my own mistakes and from helping others how to really ace our interviews. And when we say ace, we talked about last week how to ask good questions, be appealing in our appearance, be assertive in our response, that we care about their needs and also care about our needs, and be confident. That's not selfish confident, but non-selfish confident. Be assertive, be authentic, and we practice the ABC communication skill. That's active listening, body language, and character praise, to really praise with specific character quality. And then C is to be clear, concise, compelling, the confident, being curious to ask good questions. And we'll talk more about that today, and be courteous and professional. And E is to express value add, how you're going to contribute and how would you use your strength to add value to this organization that you would like to join. And we talked about source stories, and we'll share more today. And the source stories should help to demonstrate the success you have delivered in the past, your strength. And we'll talk about on strength, which is the SWOT, from your strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat. And then how do you tell the story to show your skill, your experience, and the task that you can accomplish. That's your set. And be more self-aware so that you're humble at the same time, knowing your strength and how to tell those source story, and knowing your weakness and telling action that you're taking to address your weakness. So hopefully I'll spend 45 minutes to share specific questions and how do you answer them using these ACE principle. And then you can also have the last 15 minutes to ask questions, some sticky, difficult interview situations. So where we left off last week was on the express your value add. We went through examples of source stories, how you talk about the situation, obstacle, action, and result. So we ended at around set, so that we're going to talk about your skill, experience, and the type of task and person and personal brand that you are, how you're going to use this source story to explain that. And when you talk about self-aware, that you are not blindsided and not acknowledging your weakness or saying you have no weakness, or on the other extreme, you may say, oh, I have a lot of weakness. So we need to look at ourselves very appropriate, with humility, honesty, and how to articulate your weakness. So we'll give you an example. And then we're going to show what is SWOT. So all my students use this tool, SWOT, that helps them to be more self-aware and be prepared to address interview questions about your strength and your weakness. So we'll start with real interview question. How do you apply this ACE principle? There's always this all-time dreaded, very common question. Tell me about yourself. So last week I conducted 12 interviews of young people. They are applying to do internship with our Call to Work organization. So that's usually my first question. So it's important. This is your first question, and it's your first impression, you know, that lasts forever. It's very powerful. So it sets the tone of the interview. The fact that you are speaking, you have the right of controlling the tone and the mood of the conversation. So make sure you set the tone of telling them who you are without very detail on your resume, and yet really a soar and high level key points related to their job, related to who you are, and how that is a match. And you want to share information that the employer couldn't tell from your resume. So kind of embellish and expand on what may be obvious in the resume. And that always connect to the position that you're looking for. So this is the cartoon we put in the flyer. In your tell me about yourself, there are different approaches. One approach is to tell them in 1 or 2 minutes, very quick, on your past, brief background or educational experience, and brief present in what you're doing now, specific accomplishment and skill, and your passion that, again, would connect to the current position that you're applying for. And then the future, right? How did you get from the past to where you are now, and how do you plan for the future? So learn from the past, talk about your present, and then planning for your future in terms of particular job that you're looking at in this position. So here's an example. So you want to focus on professional mostly. Don't talk about too much on your personal, where you may come from originally and such. Very succinct and clear and concise, about 2 minutes. So you want to prepare this in advance and practice them. And that way they have an idea on highlight of your past and the move you've made and what your current job, and now how you fit into the future position. So don't share personal detail. And this is an example. I started my career in marketing after graduating with a business degree in 2013. I've spent my entire career at Microsoft, receiving 2 promotions and 3 awards for outstanding performance. I'm looking to join a smaller company now and take on more leadership and project management role. So that's very short, clear and concise, telling the past, present, your accomplishment in brief mention, and then what you plan to do, and then they can dive in more. So the SWOT, it's a very powerful tool. We use it usually for organization, products, and services, and talk about, oh, your product strength and your weakness in your features and functions, and how do you compare to the external environment? What opportunity do you have in delivering better service and better product? And what are the threats when you compare to your competitors and in this external environment? I use this tool for our own professional growth. So treating ourselves as like a product. What are your strengths? What do you do well? What unique resource can you draw on? And what do others see in your strength? And you see examples of my students listing what they're good at. And that's where you want to be prepared with all your source stories. And in our website, we have a series that talked about 15 examples of source story. And last week, we also gave you some examples. So strength is really where you want to spend the most time in investing. And in my career, there was 19 bosses in 33 years. And yet there's only one boss who spent a whole hour with me on my strength. And that was so rewarding and so fruitful. So I encourage you, if you have subordinates, that you also want to spend more time on strength. Now, weakness, opportunity, and threat, you can always grow those. And yet make sure we build on each person's strength. So that way you can really enjoy contributing and doing your work. And then weakness is, what could you improve in? Where do you see that you have fewer resources than others, and what others may see you as your weakness? So from your performance feedback, from your boss, from your coworkers, and be honest. Don't think that, oh, I don't have any weakness. There's no one who are perfect, right? Everyone has some weakness. So in interview, always they ask about your strength and your weakness. So you want to be ready to talk about those. And the weakness, sometimes we may put a weakness that actually it's apparently a strength. So it's not necessarily the best way to talk about your weakness. So be honest to say your weakness, that's something you could fix, what action you're taking, and what are you doing to learn about these weaknesses, and that you're willing to change and be coached, that you're teachable, you're coachable, and that you're self-aware. So being able to articulate your strength and the action plan that you're taking to address those weaknesses, it's a big plus. So always helpful to know your weakness. And then opportunities would be, what are you open to in terms of hard skill growing or your soft skill? what trends are you taking advantage of in what's leading edge? And we'll have some time at the end, if possible, I'll cover a little bit of those trends. And how can you turn your strength into opportunities? So my student lists these examples, recognizing, hot job market in clinical data, scientist opportunity. So that's how she analyzed her opportunity. And then threats. What threats could harm you? What is your competition doing? Perhaps others who may be applying to the same job. What could those threats be? And what threats do your weakness expose to you that are blind spots that you may not know about? So this is a very powerful tool, good to prepare. And I did myself during my career. And I use this with my boss, with my mentor. And this is my own SWOT, where I would review this with my boss from time to time, perhaps every 6 months. And then there was a year where I had a threat that I was not aware of how people think about my very demanding and perfectionist weakness. There was a year that I had some blind spot, and my boss told me it's a fatal flaw, that I was not too aware of the audience and how I came across, especially with my weakness of demanding and being perfectionist. So that year, I worked hard praying and reading the Bible and asking God to help me to be more sensitive to be more others aware and be more God aware and self-aware. Then 6 months later, my boss said, well, Elaine, this is no longer your fatal flaw. So it's really encouraging for us to be more humble and using this tool to help. And of course, you need to develop good relationship with your boss when you're ready to share this tool over time. Because our SWOTs came 60% perhaps from our nature, the way that we are designed and created and the way God wired and built us. And then some 40% could be nurture that you could change and practice and reshape and learn. So these are my students' example of SWOT on their strength, what they're good at, the unique personal brand and resources they have more. And their weaknesses, remember, they should be things that you can change, have an action plan, and then your opportunity, and then their threats. So this is a tool I would recommend everyone to work on as something to continue to build up your self-aware and others aware. And then as Christian, can be more God aware. Now I'm going to start addressing various questions and how do we answer them during an interview. So for example, when you do the SWOT tool, you have an idea on your greatest weakness. So remember, you got to name a real weakness, not just anything that's apparent strength, right? That I tend to have a high standard. So you want to be more specific and pick something that's skill-based, not personality-based, because introvert, extrovert, you really can't change. So remember, something you can learn, you have an action plan, and it could be coachable. So for example, you would say, I'm not particularly strong in Microsoft Excel, rather than saying my weakness is working on a team and following direction. So you don't want to say that because you want to make sure you're a good team player. So it's a skill that you can train and pick courses and learn. Mention what you've done, the action plan to overcome this weakness and how you have improved. And when you do that, you can also use the SOAR approach with the situation, obstacle, action, and result, demonstrating the progress that you're making. So these are the don'ts, right? Don't give a fake weakness. Oh, I work too hard. Don't try to be funny with an answer like kryptonite, or the hiring manager might have heard this over and over again. Don't tell them you have no weakness. That's impossible, right? Don't name a personality base like, oh, I have trouble getting along with colleagues. That's really a soft skill you should always work on. And don't name a weakness that will really impact your ability to get this job. So here's an example, a good example. I'm not particularly strong in social media marketing, so it's a skill. For the first few years of my career, I focused entirely on email marketing. That's still what I specialize in, which is why I applied for your email marketing manager job. but I realized it's also helpful to understand the principles of social media marketing, because some of the strategy that work there also work well in email. So I've started spending a couple of hours per week of my own time to study and learn this new arena, which has helped me quite a bit. So you've been very specific on the skill, how it may have been before and what effort you have made, and even give them numbers, 2 hours a week. So now we want to talk about other qualities, right? In the string, I always ask students to prepare at least 3 stories. Intelligent quotient, how you learn new things, a fast learner, and solve problems. Emotional quotient, how you get along with people, including someone who could be difficult to get along. And we use phrases like coworkers who tend to be a bit difficult to get along. You want to be gentle and soft, not be accusational. And then the third type is adversity quotient, challenges, failures that you deal with, that you have experienced in the past. So these are examples of competency-based interview where the companies will ask about your skill and ask you to give examples. So with all the preparation that you have for IQ, EQ, and AQ, there's always a way for you to use those prepared story to answer questions, right? You can always have a connection. So for example, these are common competency that interviewers will ask about your teamwork, communication skill, interpersonal skills. So those are all EQ related. So you should have story and example to share that. And then taking good responsibility, right? You learn something, you see it through, follow through, execution, and get it done. So that's example of IQ. And then problem solving, very difficult challenges that you can still solve the problem and learn from your mistakes. So you fell forward, not backward. So these are examples of questions that you want to prepare. So I will share some typical responses to these types of questions. So let's start. What do you know about our company? So the do's and don'ts. You definitely want to research before your interview through their website, LinkedIn, Google News, or any of this press release, because that's most exciting to them. You want to talk about what they're most excited on. Of course, press release, new products, what award they may have received. And the more creative you are in your research, the better. So you want to go above and beyond. And that helps you to prepare, ask good questions. For example, when you ask questions, you don't just ask plain questions that you get answer from their website. It's obvious. So when you do the research and know about that company, you understand the industry they're in, what they're selling, what they're good at, what their differentiation and their competitors and their edge. Then you start asking a question by saying, I see that your product is such a leading edge in this industry. And I wonder what your next 5-year plan would be to further enhance your product differentiation. So that is a good way to ask a question. You start with what you know about the company, and then you build on what you know, and then go deeper into a question that's not obvious from their website. And then have a good sense of their company size. Is it small, medium, or large size? And that can incorporate into your response to their company, asking you what you know about them. Whatever you find out and research, you have to connect to your enthusiasm, your interest, your excitement, and your passion. And that way, when you answer what you know about their company, you always demonstrate your personal brand and your interest about their company. So that way, they can see that you learn about their company, you're interested, and you have skill to connect and to contribute. So don't do the following. I don't know anything, or wrong facts. It's better to just say a few accurate facts than saying a bunch of things that may have wrong information. And don't just do the bare minimum of research. Learn to really go above and beyond. Even talking to people who work for the company. That's not just objective research, you even get some personal research. So here's an example. From what I read, your company is one of the leaders in database and website security for large corporations. I read your list of clients on your website and saw multiple Fortune 500 companies mentioned, such as ABC and XYZ. Beyond that, I recently had an informational interview with James from the marketing team. After messaging him on LinkedIn, he shared a bit about your company culture, mainly the emphasis on collaboration, open interaction between different departments and groups. That's something that sounds exciting to me and that I'm hoping to find in my next job. Can you share more about what you would describe your company culture here? So this is a very good example how you summarize what you learn about this company based on your research and even informational interview from your LinkedIn connection. And then you can go further asking on company culture that may not be obvious in the website. How did you hear about the position? So be clear, direct, and upfront. Be honest how you find out, and always show your enthusiasm. I was excited to apply because what you find out. So don't say that, oh, I don't remember, I don't know, showing anything that's lacking confidence. So here's some example of your response. I found a position while looking for jobs online. I heard about it from a colleague or friend. Your company was recommended to me by somebody I worked with in a previous job and had heard good things about your organization. I saw the job posted on LinkedIn and the position seemed interesting, so I wanted to learn more. So those are good responses. Next question. How did you apply for this? Why did you apply for this position? So be sure to make them feel that you're interested and also be more specific on the reason, like the examples that you heard so far, that you've done the research, and always phrase everything in a positive way. That it's half glass full, that is upside, it's opportunity, that is growing, and it's contribution. And then often they will ask about your current job or your current company. Be sure to avoid bad-mouthing them. Instead, you want to talk about how you want to go from where you are today to where you want to be in the future. The experience, the challenge, opportunity that this job position would offer. So don't just say, oh, I need a job, or I'm employed, I need to find work. So all those are negative, right? And you need to pay bills or talk bad about your current company. Don't sound desperate, even though if you may be, you want to be positive and come across with confidence and that you're marketable. And of course, you want to be honest. Or don't mention personal reason. Oh, I want a shorter commute, huh? So always think about raising the profile of the company that you appreciate. So that way they would see that you really show good interest and that you have done your homework. So here's an example. Since the beginning of my career, I've wanted to work for a larger organization in this industry. And I know you're one of the leaders in this space. I'm very interested in your products and services, especially the mobile applications you're building recently. So I'll be excited to come here and grow my skills with an organization like yours. Very short, very clear, and demonstrate your enthusiasm. Another example. I've heard great things about the work environment here from a few colleagues. And when I saw this job posting, it seemed to match my skills very closely. For example, I saw on the job description that you need somebody who's an expert in Java programming. This is what I focused on in both my previous positions and was even the focus of my academic work before graduating from university. I consider myself an expert in Java, and it's a skill I hope to continue specializing in. Wow. So this is honest, and don't be shy to talk about your strength, and just be appropriate in talking about how you have invested in the Java programming, how this helps and matches the need of the company. Next question. Why are you looking to leave your current company? Very common question, right, in your resume. And there may be past few jobs that you changed, and they may even ask you. So what are the do's and don'ts? Always sound positive.
Focus on what you want to gain by making a move, growing from where you are today, and new contributions, new skill, and new value that you can add to the new company. And when you answer that, be careful not always me, myself, and I. Always also think about both what you can grow, at the same time what you can contribute to the company. And it's exactly what they need. And then show gratitude for your current job. So this job has been great. I've learned a lot in the last 2 years, and I feel I'm ready for this new position with your company, that I can further add value to what you need. That's an example, right? So sound that you are interested, you're ambitious, not aggressive, ambitious, motivated, you're driven, that you are willing to learn new things and face new challenges and grow to higher ground. And don't do the following. Don't badmouth. Don't sound like you're trying to escape a bad situation. And even though sometimes you may have challenges with your current work, you don't have to tell everything, right? So you don't lie, and yet you have to be wise in what is appropriate to share, what's not appropriate to share. And don't say you're struggling or failing or difficult or stressful, or don't say you're not sure. So here's an example. I'm looking for more leadership opportunities. I've been at my company for 3 years and have really enjoyed the experience. And I feel in order to take the next step in my career, it will be helpful to join a larger organization and use what I've learned in the past to lead more projects. That's why this project manager role really excited me. So that's a good example. Next question. Tell us about a challenge you faced and how you handled it. So this type of situation, behavior question is very common. Greatest failure, your challenge, most stressful project, things like that. So this is a good example to show your AQ, adversity quotient, and use the SOAR approach. And the example below does that. So what are the do's? You explain the situation, the task you need to accomplish, and what action and method did you take and why? And then the result, the outcome. And then when you talk about the outcome, try to put in numbers, quantities, right? Duration, percentages, dollars, on time, on budget, and share what you learned from this experience. And did you take away the knowledge that would help you in your current job and in your future career? So that's a holistic way to talk about a challenge. And don't share any story that has personal conflict or argument or disagreement. Don't talk about an argument or challenge that you didn't overcome or you didn't have a solution for. So it should be a holistic story. So here's a SOAR example, a pretty simple one. In my last job, we were facing a tough deadline and my boss was out for the day. Our client was expecting a project to be delivered by 5 p.m., but we were far behind schedule. I took the lead on the project, delegated tasks to the 4 other team members in a way that I thought would utilize everyone's strength best. And then I reorganized my own personal tasks so I could dedicate my entire day to contributing to this project as well. The project was a success and we delivered the work to our customer on time. I went on to lead more projects after that and use what I learned to be a better project manager. So that's a good example of a SOAR story and telling the challenge and how you overcame, what you learned, and what is the result. So here gets into some tricky and sticky questions, such as, how much money are you looking to earn? So what do? You want to tell them what you focus on, it's more about the job that fits your skill and how you can best contribute. Of course, the pay is important. You just want to avoid making the pay being the most important, especially during interview. There's the right time and the right place to talk about a salary toward the end, and also during the job offer, and you can even negotiate. So you may not have to tell exactly, because once you say it, then that number may stick in their mind. So you need to be very careful, and we'll explain how you do that. Repeat do repeat this multiple times so that you're consistent, so that you are setting boundary. Even if you're pressured, you still can keep focusing on finding the right job that fits on both sides, that it's a win-win. And then also, as appropriate, you can share what you research, right? And I encourage us to always research your current pay, salary, and your market trend, and the supply and demand of your skill. And we'll talk about some trend later on if we have time. And then also how your current location versus the future job location in terms of living standard and everything. So similar job, similar company, what are they getting? So you do your homework so you have a range and that you can use it in your discussion. So the don'ts are, don't tell them specific target salary, and don't give them a narrow range. You want to be wider. So here's an example. Right now, I'm focused on finding a job that's a right fit for my career. Once I've done that, I'm willing to consider an offer you feel fair, and I do not have a specific number in mind yet. My priority in my job search is to find a position that's a great fit and will allow me to continue learning and becoming more skilled. That said, I did some baseline research into salaries for this type of role here in the Seattle area, and found that the average seemed to be in the 50,000 to 75,000 range. So your job would fit within that range, and I think it makes sense that we'll keep talking. So that's a good way to answer the questions. So related to salary gets very tricky, and Dominic and he did some research and how actually sometimes in states and cities, our law, the interviewer asking what's your current salary or your past salary history. So you have the right to set boundary if you're not comfortable. And it's okay to have some salary conversation and make sure it's not early on. Like I said, there's a right time and the right place for it later. And don't just throw out a number. So do the homework, do your research. And then there's another sensitive topic about workload and some burnout. So you can get a sense from the conversation if they have a very high attrition, that people tend to come in and out like a revolving door, leaving the company. So it's important, and it could be a red flag. So that's a tricky way to make sure. You may ask some right smart question, because you can hear if they say, oh, the team is very lean now and we're wearing a lot of hats. Oh, we like to hustle, or a lot of fire drill. That may give you some indication that they may tend to get burnout. So that also gives you some idea. Is it some work culture? Is that the company that you want to be part of? And then some other tough question, like what are you earning at your current job, and how do we answer? Say, I don't feel comfortable answering that. It's okay to say that. And then talk about the skills and experience. And then do the research like we said. And remember too, it's not just the pay, not just the dollar amount. It's also a lot of other soft benefits, including career growth opportunity, including the kinds of other job opportunities in this company. So for example, I work in my company for 33 years, and yet I moved 16 times. I was able to move from semiconductor to data networking, to data analytics, to software-defined network, to customer experience, to fiber. So I had many opportunities to learn different technology. So there are other soft factors in choosing your company. And of course, there's also many soft benefits, such as signing bonus or relocation package or equity or some share, or even having executive education or executive coaching. So when I took on my job with AT&T, they actually put me through graduate school in Princeton while working at AT&T. So I would go to work 2 or 3 days at Bell Labs and then go to Princeton for 2 to 3 days for my graduate study. So that's a huge benefit. So all these should be taken into consideration. Other tough question could be your age, right? If you may be in your 50s, you may feel a little bit uncomfortable if they ask you, oh, in terms of some age bias question. So you want to focus on your skill the experience and actually turn it around. Your age offers experience, offers past learning that other younger hire may not allow. And at the same time, also talk about your willingness to learn. Because sometimes they worry about your old age and you may be fixated. And yet we really want to show that I'm willing to learn, I'm flexible, I can take on new technology or new skill and demonstrate that with your past experience. And then sometimes they may ask about your family or how old are your children. So all these are personal questions that you can avoid. So you could say it in a polite way, no, I like to focus on the skill set and the experience for this role. Or if it's chit-chatting, you could gentle talk about those. The reason is that you want to avoid personal connection where they may think that, oh, they worry about your childcare or worry about your burden for working on getting the college tuition from your job. So just try to focus on the professional, focus on work. So next question, why should we hire you? So do show your confidence, demonstrating your skill and ability, like we said all this time, right? The source stories, and give specific examples, demonstrating these skills that match with the job description. And of course, you want to do research and tailor your source story according to the job description keywords, key skill, and key phrases. So that way, of course, have to be truthful and honest, and that they can resonate. So make sure you don't say, oh, I don't know, or oh, you should hire whoever you want. Those are really bad answers, right? And here's an example, good one. I read on the job description that you're looking for someone with experience in blank. I've done that for 3 years and accomplished certain results and show numbers, can immediately help you to accomplish blank. So that is compelling, short, clear, and concise. So because of the time, I'm going to skip to our conclusions and summarize for how we're going to do superb interview. So I want to summarize to say that we want to study the job research on what your job description is about, understand the gaps on your strength, and make sure you know how to address those gaps. Practice makes perfect. All these question example I gave you are valid, are relevant. So prepare your own story, practice them. Not just memorize and recite it, make it personal, make it relevant, and make it with energy. And then E is excellent final interview preparation with role play, with someone to practice with you, and looking at the mirror or doing recording, and always be ready with what you need to bring with you, extra copies of resume or notes, and the right attire that you need to dress and be ready. And then review and reflect on what you discussed with them. And after the interview, prepare and keep the conversation going. So that's how I pray and bless you with the superb interview experience. So on our website, we have some more source stories. So it's calltowork.org. And these are QR code and also with YouTube and groups that you can join. And it's always important to pray before your interview, pray before your work. So we have examples of these prayer in our website. We also have weekly devotion. English comes out every Wednesday. Chinese comes out every Monday, and they're different content. So you're welcome to sign up for free. Thousands of people on our database to receive this every day, every week. And then we have the Chinese devotion in this website, theologyofwork.org, in all the Chinese websites. So the last 40 some devotions are all there. And then this Elaine resource under our Encourage tab has more communication talks. I know Harley is thinking of using some of those in the future talks. So in any case, job search really goes much better when you have a warm connection, not a cold drop-in of a resume. And even with that, your resume needs to be very appealing with the right keywords to draw the attention that connects to the job description and what they're looking for. And hopefully it should be one page, not multiple pages, and clear and concise and compelling. Yes, your strength. I usually would include, so those are my strength finder, A, B, C, D, R. Those are my top 5 strengths. I'm achiever, belief, connectedness, developer, and responsibility. And when I learned about my top 5 strengths, I realized why I love my job. I love the ministry, love the work I did because I was using these top 5 strengths. Yeah, so the strength would be adjective, would be description of your skill, your experience, how you would get things done. So this could be your self-assessment, and you also welcome others to share with you, including your family, your boss, and we typically do 360-degree feedback, your coworkers and your subordinates, and that you're humble and honest, right? Be self-aware, others aware, and then also God aware, what God is telling you. So this SWOT is a very powerful tool. I encourage everyone to do it. And then track your progress. And after my mentee would do the SWOT, the next step will be have a prioritization. Make sure you prioritize according to what's the most important to the least important. And then have an action plan on how you're going to use your strength, how you're going to work on your weakness, how you leverage your opportunity, how you're going to work on your threat. So you have an action plan, but make sure we prioritize which one should get our most attention. Strength should get our most attention. And you can only do 3 things. You cannot do 10 things, right? You have to prioritize. So that's how we typically use this. And then use it from point A to point B and point C, tracking your progress with yourself and with your boss and with your other coworkers who help you with the 360-degree feedback. 10P, prepare company research. Do your homework. Practice the answers to these common interview questions. Plan your response according to the job description, the required skill, quality, and experience. Practice these source stories. Have a boatload of source stories that's ready based on your experience, your situation, obstacle, action, result. On our website, there's I'll show you where it is if you're interested. There's a whole set of source story you can model after, and we covered quite a few last week and today. And then number 5 is to practice role play with someone, coworker or family or friend. So as if they're the interviewer, and that you record it and then you learn. I know it's painful, right? And yet that's how you improve the Q&A. And then prepare your past work examples, putting into those source stories, and then plan what you want to wear for the interview tomorrow, and asking questions that are purpose-driven. They are smart questions, relevant and thoughtful. Like I said, if it's something on the website, it's obvious, there's no need for you to ask, then you should use those facts to build on and ask a more elaborate question. So be prepared to ask good questions. And then number 9 is to prepare copies of resume, your notebook and pen, that you're ready to take notes. And finally is that point the answers back to your skill and accomplishment, always, because that's your asset, that's your value add, and that's your demonstrated success, connecting to the current job.